Right, hello. I'm going to be doing a design session. What we've got here is my robot arm I've been working on. Here we go. It's essentially going to have a pen on the end, which it's going to draw with. And it's been coming along okay so far. I've been testing the physical model and such like. But at the moment, we've got on this part is the rotation part. Now, you can see where the one motor is attached still. It's currently got a 3-volt motor as its drive. You have to excuse the noises as I try and shift my desk around. Not enough room. This 3-volt motor is just not strong enough. So I went out and ordered from Amazon some nice 12-volt ones, and as you can see, they're a bit bigger. So this design session will just be me taking this component, and upgrading it to have this fittable on it. Now, those 3-volt motors are part of the linear actuators, these ones, but there'll be another design session to do them, because for these they're in a separate file as individual pieces, and in this one it's just purely for the animation and for fitting the rest of the build components around. So let's get started. Right, so this is the original one. So if I move that one out of the way. Now, one of the things I need to do is position this motor, because I'm going to take advantage of the fact that I can get it close to it so the sides of the motor can fit to the edge. I'll demonstrate in a second. Let's just hide a number of these pieces just so I can see from above. And we can take this. Oh, brilliant, it's got shadows. I need to turn that off. Shadows, yay. Right. Oh, yeah, oh, no. It always takes a while to find the right view to look at things with. Now, there we go. So I've got to remember that is the line I want to look at. So I move that along. And I want this resting, if I zoom in, as close as possible, get that like that. Then zooming out, I can just nudge it a little bit by 0.15 millimeters, which is the gap I put between things which I want to be a snug fit of components, really. So if I go back to the wrong one, I go back to there, we can see it fits pretty closely, but now we've got a situation where it's all cutting in to all of this. Now, is this still right height? There's that one. That is the motor. Yeah, we've got that section there. So we're going to have to lift the motor up a little bit. That there is a flat platform that the previous motor rests on. So let's just get that at the right height. Zoom in further. I'm being too precise, but I like doing this. And then again, up by 0.15. Zoom. Now, go back out. What I'll do in the editing process after I've done this is probably just fast forward through a lot of bits, but where I can, I'll try and explain what I'm doing. Right, let's move this section out. Oh, typical. Right. Ah, yeah. It's just they're all parented to each other, so if I get that, select that, that one changes parent to that. What else is attached? The screws are attached. Right. Cool. Well, and the gear. That'll need redesigning. It's going to be made a bit larger because the drive shaft is further across. Now, let's have a better look on the inside. So it sits nicely on the platform, so that's alright. Don't have to really worry about much else. Did I leave that in the right place? Selection to cursor. I did. Good. Right. That's not a... The neat thing is it sits above that part, so I should be able to keep this section here, which has the sliding grooves, and just this whole bit will have to be extended back a bit. So, getting things ready, let's steal part of that. Make sure merge is switched off. Shift D, P to separate. That makes it a separate model. We're just going to tidy this up a little bit. You'll see in a moment why. What we can do, Shift N just to recalculate normals. I'll probably do that a bit too much, but saves time later on. I am going to use the solidify modifier, and I'm going to make that 0.15 millimeters thick. Change the offset so it sits on the outside, and then of course as always even thickness, high quality normals, just to make sure it's decent. Now this is just, it gives me, if I go out of it, it gives me a way, once I solidify, no, actually backwards, it gives me a way to have the shape of the piece I'm working with extracted, so I can have something which is already there, which has got the right tolerances. So in this case, it'll eventually be merged back of that piece there, which is holding it in place, but it needs to be stretched backwards. Caught myself waving my hands at the screen then to emphasize that it's moved backwards, but we all do silly things. Now, that one, let's get this a bit better. There we go. Don't want the join at the top, so I can go into it, Control L, X, and delete all those vertices. Now, let's see. Where should I start this? Yeah, about there. Make sure it's balanced on each side. Yeah, because this, let's go out of it. Yeah, this whole piece gets printed that way. So I've got to remember that in its construction. I don't like doing support structure on my 3D prints, so I always try my best to accommodate that. Though where I haven't, on these side pieces, they're actually printed that way up, so that would be the flat of the print bed. So I do need support structure for that. But that's, I think, apart from another piece, I think that piece there, the way it's printed, needs support structure. Oh no, yeah, that one you can see there's two different heights. So yeah. Now got that bit. There we go. Join it there. I should have taken this and extracted it to do the same thing. This time though, I'll probably use 0.25. But I want it on the inside. Even flip normals. Yeah. Remove those. I can take that and join it to that. So now already we're building up the inside shape which the rest of it can then just be modified to. So if we go into that one, what's its furthest out? Furthest out is that. Capture that. Hide it. And what we're going to do is just take the existing back plane and just stretch it backwards. Not stretch it, but you know, bring it back to there. And then, how much space will we give? Oh, yeah, nearly there. 2.5 millimeters. That'll give enough backing. So the motor has room to sit. It'll get confusing at some point trying to keep track of where everything looks. We've got here as the top point, so if I capture that one should capture the whole length of that. Now I will have to make sure to take into account the hole for the vents, but that will come along in a moment. So stretch that to the top. Let's actually, I'll need to, do I want it to be high? Sorry for the rapid moving around. This is generally how, when I'm looking at things, I'm constantly, it's like if you're holding something in your hands, you'll look all around it. I need to get this to a similar height as that. Yeah, okay, that's a bit better. Now I'll take those. Now I'm essentially moving that out. Oh, let's do a bit extra zoomed in. Oh, you can already see where, just not quite sure which one is which. But that's probably either the bottom of the piece or that's at the top of the piece. We'll find out. Let's have a check on something. The rotations are fine. Right. That's reasonable. Okay, so it seems like I should have gone to that one. Whoops, sorry. Ultra zoom. Right, back a bit. There we go, zooming out. Circle, and we're just going to merge those two, merge at center, so now that's all one piece. Yeah, there we go. Now what we need to start to do, so the top section is purely for the motor, and this lower section will have to be changed to accommodate the new gearing system, or the new gear. Do I keep that bit? Right, let's remove that. Right, well, now that I've got the shape, I can actually move that out of the way. Switch back to that one. Right. Now, is that from the motor? Yes, it is. Right, some of these things can now actually be removed, since I've got representations of them up here. Move that. Just making sure I don't take out any of the things I shouldn't do. Using the middle click on the mouse here with the circle tool to get rid of stuff I don't want to select. Right, get rid of those. I was now contemplating whether to switch to mirror mode. I probably will actually. Really handy is mirror mode. So try clipping. Right. So I've lost a few things. Right, so take the height of that. Oops, there we go. All selected? No. Get that. Right. Right. Don't need those. Don't need those. So that's outside the motor. So that is. Ugh. Where did I put the motor? Right. Time to be more creative. Control I. Right. Is that looking right? So that entire section needs to be redone. If you can hear the bin lorries outside, I apologise. Hopefully my speaker system will filter them out. Now, something I just noticed, which I can't really have, is this section here, because it's a curve, and if I try to fit the motor, oh, I could fit it from under the other side, it might slot in. Oh, actually I might keep that, yeah, I'll keep that. So that's the lowest part. Take that. Now that's might make things a bit too interesting. Making things a bit too thin. Yeah, that would be a bit too thin. We'll have to see how that goes. Alright, thinking in my head, I need to try and think out loud. Right. Okay, get that bit. Why did... It always chooses the average of 2 points, so they're obviously two different heights. Yeah, they were. Right. Just making sure there's enough space for everything. Right, let's get those. Slide them out. Turned off that. Right. That far out. Oops. the same. Seems to be the right amount of clearance. That'll rest on top of there. I should have kept the surround for that, so let's bring that back. Actually thinking of the assembly of it, it needs to rest on something, so I can't have it. I do need to get rid of the surround on this bit so it slots in. Yeah, so that's the widest point, so I need to get rid of those bits. Yeah, there we go. That is the furthest forward on that, so let's catch that. Extrude X, and what height's that? That one. Control R and do a loop cut. And just set that to the same height. You can then just, oops, keep that a bit tidier. Get that there. That. Let's get that super maneuvered. There. Right, this will end up being extended upwards anyway. Doot, 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 and doot. Get that there. Extend all, let's have 4 millimeters. That means that when this is printing out, that thin section will at least have a decent amount of plastic around it, so there's lower chance of it snapping. Let's get joint across. I've got joining vertices across a face, or face splitting. I can't remember the proper name for it. Is it insert? No. Anyway, set to my numpad plus. Vertices, extrude, no. Oh. I think it's just one I found on how to do. Right, now this section is too close. Can I widen this? Because already this, oh goodness, that's alright. That needs to be, oh yeah, sent backwards. And that way, 1.5 millimeters. So that gives it a nice, it clamps it on, holds it in place, so that's alright. Just making sure everything else works. So that's joined in place. What I'm trying to do is not reprint this entire section. So we'll see how that goes. Should be okay. I mean, it's all this housing is doing is stopping the motor from spinning. Of course, not around that point. Actually, while that cursor's still there, let's change the point of origin to the 3D cursor. Makes it easy to fix things in place then. Because all these components have a similar, except for that one. Now, let's get this in again. What's going on here? Ah, I've joined everything up when. Get rid of those. And that one. Right. can get rid. That's the same height? No. They're not the same height, are they? Right. Don't know why I did that when I'm just going to delete that lot. Now, that means that that section, black section work. Essentially, there's a bit of a brainstorming session as well. Right. That will look like that. Is that? That is in line. Yes. That sits at that height, so let's capture that. Another loop cut. Just trying to keep the geometry tidy as well as I go along. Right. So that will print like that. There. It's establishing what that bit is for, which is just a holding it in place. See, now that's let's see. Oops. So that sits all above. What I can do then. Wrong one. Oh, that's the gap for the gear housing. I can just send that to there. Oh, that's wrong. Come on, that way, that way. Then that should be able to go down to there, even though that section still needs modifying. Deselect, select. Right, there we go. Okay, at least that's a very roughly modelled out section. It's a bit near, but and this section, what am I doing with this? Probably why I didn't talk in my last video for this one, because I just end up mumbling to myself. Oops, do that one. Okay, that's a bit more solid looking. We've got the motor sitting there. Do I need? I will, won't I? Let's put in the. Oops, wrong one. There we go. Put the gaps in so that there's a way for air to get into the vents. Not the best, but right. So that's sort of fitted that a bit. Once I get the gear redone, so that'll be the next bit. Let's clear this lot out. No, this will look messy. Yeah. What's going on there? That just looks untidy. That's why. There we go. Match them up. Right. So that'll be where that gear goes. Now, oh, it went. Can I find that? Right, let's unhide. Where's the gear? There's this. So I select that, 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 and that. Control I inverts the selection so everything else gets selected, and hide them. And I've got the gear back again. Right. Oh, Control Z on that one. I actually deselect you. There we go. Now, the diameter of that is only slightly smaller than that. I'd like it to be a tight fit, so I might just copy that shaft and just put it into there. So let's first of all select all that's required. I should put the cursor in the middle there. Selection to cursor. So we can see how much that's moved. I'll probably also extend the gear as well so it's longer, because it's, well, the motor sits up a bit higher, but it'll also give more chance to attach the gear, which I can't seem to find on the list on the side, but I don't want to keep hiding and unhiding things. Unhiding, if I get my speed right. Right, what we need to do, actually I do need that gear. Right, click, click. Right, select all the relevant pieces. I'm sure somebody's shouting at me that there's a probably easy way of doing this, but keeps me occupied. Now, forget that. I have swapped this around, I think, to give more headroom on the actual model. So we'll have to make sure that these are properly shifted around. Right, that's height of that. That there, match the height. I always push A twice, which is deselect and then select, and that, because I have a tendency, if I was doing anything, I would click to the one side, but what I won't realise that it's actually highlighted something in the background, so the amount of times I've moved geometry I shouldn't have. Now the important thing is I need to keep that, so if I catch the height of that, go to the motor, put that in. Right, that is that height. Actually no, I might as well just capture that. Turn off merge, auto merging, and separate that out. And then I can join that to the gear. Makes it a horrible mess. Right, hide it for now. We can just get rid of that. Get rid of the other edges. Yeah. We just want those outer gear pieces. Down to there. Of course, delete that. So it's now a proper hollow tube. Now what we're going to do is, oops, delete the rest of those teeth because they're wrong. Oops. Right. And what we can do is, because those teeth are there aligned for us. This is always the tricky part. How close to one? Well, I've got to remember how large these gears are. So if I go to their edge length, that top edge is 1 millimeter across, which is fairly big. So when we That's 0.5 millimeter. Will that actually, when it's moving as a gear, will it be able to actually move out of the gear tooth? I put 3D cursor. So I know when I was developing this, I had constraints so that if I turned this one, it would cause this to turn at a similar rate. But I guess I removed them after I put everything together. I'll back into it for now. Shift D, rotate. This is going to be a bit of trial and error, isn't it? Right. If I just go there. I'm just trying to work out what clearance I would have as it twists. At the same time of twisting, it would also be lifting away because of the whole rotation of the gear. As long as the teeth can bite in. Now that should be okay. I've got to remember what I've set there. So if I choose 19.5, what do I get? Looks reasonable. Let's do another 19.5. Of course, I should really have picked a number which actually goes up to 360. Right, right. Calculated time. I've got a nice little Casio here, so let's see, 1, 2, 3, blah, 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 I don't know. Oh, I could just do 360 divided by 19.5, and that doesn't give me a whole number, but it gives me 18, so that's 18 teeth. So if I do 360 divided by 18, I get 20. Okay, so if I then Shift D, rotate along Z, change that to 20 degrees, then that will be what I need to get 18 teeth. I might split this into 2 parts actually, considering this is probably the last bit I'm going to do for this. I mean, I'll do 3D printing checks for it later on. A nice round number is 20. It's easy to type on the numpad. When I did the larger gear, I did use modifiers and the array modifier over a rotation object just to quickly rotate things. Now this is where I see everything's gone wrong. Oh no, I did it right. Cool. Now it's also where I should have actually used an array object like I just said, because I could have created this individually with yeah, so it had those gaps in between. So I'm just going to have to quickly get this done. Okay. Probably fast forward on this bit. Or maybe not. I mean, if you've gotten this far, you probably won't mind a bit of tedious vertex clicking. Joys of 3D designing, especially gears. Hope somebody's been keeping count, because I haven't. Click on that. Oops. Click on that. Amount of commissions where I've ended up doing detail like this really close up, and it's the sort of stuff you just won't see, especially if you're printing, but it's something that needs doing if you're making a solid model for 3D printing. That's just the way it is. And again, like I said, I should have used an array modifier, but said I've done that now, so I can actually, yeah, click that. If I change the medium point, E, scale, and I can do that. Doing the same on the bottom. Shrink that down, and I can go. I'm using the holding down control, so I select one, hold down control, and it'll join the path. Now, it doesn't always work. Control F. Ooh, where's it gone? Grid fill. Oh, it does. Cool. It doesn't, like I said, doesn't always work. Join those together. Zoop. Yeah, control. There we go. Select those two. You could always select outer edges. Grid fill. Yeah, cool. Select all of them, Shift N. You can see the colour change. That's where the normals are facing outwards rather than inwards. It sort of shows a darker one. The previous versions of Blender, it was a really nice system that you could see straight away. Even in solid mode like this, you could see when a normal was facing the wrong way. But this newer version, for some reason, you only really see it in X-ray mode. But that should be that gear sorted. Now, let's see. Let's capture you. Separate that out. Need you. Attach you to there. Then I can go in, and I've got the placement for the gear, which is just massive. Oh, I'll just expand that area. Should be okay. Right, so give myself enough room. Ugh. Right, I need like decent clearance of that because the gear does move around. So 2 millimeters the wrong way, 2 millimeters the right way. Oops, what did I press? Oh. I meant to press the. I didn't manage to. I've just forgotten everything I'm doing now for a minute. What am I doing? Ah, yes, I need to push full stop, switch to 3D cursor, and then go E, rotate around Z. Yeah, and just manually rotate it around. Nobody's going to be looking at this bit on the printed model. Right, and that is the shape of that. Now, the side is there. Put that there. Put it back where it came from. Right. Oh, now is that too far down? Too far down. That's fine, considering nothing else is near it. It can actually help as a kind of cover. Right. Oh, bugger, that one, that one, that one. I'll press that. If you hold down, press Alt, it'll open up, as you see at the bottom of the screen, just I don't know, I've never actually used those, but it gets in the way of doing anything else until you press Alt again to get rid of it. Now, let's get that. Now, E, let's go 4 millimeters, that's always a good number. That over there. E. Get rid of those. Right. It's down there, that's good. Although I do have to get rid of all of those. In fact, I don't know why I kept those there then. I'm not paying attention, am I? How's this working? That's nigh on joined over there. Well, so what I'll do then, capture the distance for that. And we're going to have that over there, out to there. I can take that, merge it there, and this whole section can be filled in. Control T just fills in the lines between all of them. It'll something I'll have to do anyway with this model, and it just makes sure every flat surface has each vertex is connected to the other. It sort of does it automatically if you export it as an when you export it as an STL, but yeah, it might not do it in a way which is pretty. Now that lot is way too close to there. So give it a bit more room, let's say 2 millimeters. Right, what's that doing? Oof. Right. Just can't tell which one's which. There we go, yeah. 2 millimeters. Then, while I remember, I can take, not that one, but that. I can just push that back by 2 millimeters. Helps when I actually remember the value needed. Now that can be joined. Okay, it's joined up. Select those. Ooh, hold on. Let's do Alt M by distance. Remove one vertex. Is that you? It is, right. Now, similar to that angled surface there, which is now ruined because I did this. Right, let's turn on auto merging again. No, that's not it. There we go. That was slide vertex I used then. I've got the key bound to my backspace key. Let's do something similar to there. Oh, it's not like that. That's because that is not joined. That's what happens when you don't properly join all the surfaces. There we go. Right. What I wanted to do was Control B, do a bevel, and just make that a bit tidier looking, really. It reduces the surface area when it's printing and just makes the object not be harsh and square. One thing I forgot to do was make a copy of that original one. Oh, never mind, I've got backup copies of the whole thing somewhere, I hope. All seems a bit thin, making sure it's flat. Now this is where, yeah. How close is that? So, whoops. Right. Save. Can't believe it's taken me this long to save. So we've got that. So we've got the gear section there. We've got the ridge to hold the motor. Should hopefully all be held quite snugly. That will help prevent rotation. We've got the gear all updated. So that looks good so far. If I switch across to 3D printing, do check all. Non-manifold edge, which should just be those. But it's zooming out quite a bit. Let's do Control I and hide. No, it is just that. Intersect faces, yeah, that's because I've not done Control T on that, which I'll do a bit later. Non-flat faces, that's because it's got a join there. Yeah. Oops. That's strictly not needed, but oops. Messy. Yeah. Well, that I think we'll call it for now, because that seems to be mostly upgraded to what I want it to be. I'll do further checks in terms of 3D printing, tidying that up. What will happen with the final model? If I do Alt D to duplicate it, that'll just be hold on, median point. That'll just be rotated like that by 90 and changed. Its origin changed so that it can be sit nice and flush on the surface, and that will be the angle that it's printed out. So it looks like there's still a decent amount of clearance all the way around. So that should be good. That'll be the upgraded piece. I'll delete that. I'll bring everything else back in. Now you can see the size of that extra component. That will eventually have to have a version for there. I may just use that up there, but this entire lower piece here will actually need upgrading and expanding to take into account this whole new gear here. So it I wouldn't be able to use it in this model. I'd probably be able to use, if I did an upgraded section like that, I would be able to use it on there, but on these two sections here I made them too tighter fitting. But for my next robot I'm going to build anyway, I definitely want to use a larger motor housing like this. I kind of like the style of it. It's alright. But yeah, thanks for watching, and I'll bring this video to a close.